Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to tell you about all of the latest updates happening around Google Workspace. This podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today,
we have 4 updates for you today. We have an update from Gmail, an update from Google Chat, and 2 updates from Google Sheets. So let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so first up, we've got 2 little updatelets for everybody this week. The first one is to do with Gmail. The new Gmail user interface is rolling out for scheduled release and is anticipated to be completed on February the 3rd, which is today, day of recording. So by the time everybody is listening to this, then it should have been fully rolled out. And this update to Gmail will become the standard experience for using Gmail, and there's no option to revert back to the original user interface.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Yeah, that's so Gmail are really solidifying that new interface. To be totally honest, I think Gmail's interface these days is pretty slick. I mean, certainly from the point of view of everything being in that one pane of glass, as it were. I know it's sort of the IT buzzword that everybody likes to use, or buzz term that everybody likes to use, with having Gmail and chat and spaces and everything sort of in one place. I think there's some other stuff that I don't even use. I think you can start a Google Meet straight away from Gmail or something like that.
Yeah, I actually quite like the one interface where you can access everything. I do think it looks quite neat and smart, and I like it. I think it's quite good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they've done a very good job of giving you all of those features, but without crowding it, and still your email being the main focus. Okay, so that's going to become the standard. Like you say, by the time everybody's listening to this, that will be the standard rollout. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next?
Up next, we've got an update for Google Chat. So display space names when granting access to files. So when sharing a Google Drive file to a space in Google Chat, you'll now see the space name and associated image if you're a member of the space. If you are not a member of the space but would like to share a file to that space, the space name will show as a private space. So this one, I can't quite get my head around this one at the moment, because I thought if you're not part of a space, what is the process to sharing a file to said space? If you can't access it, how are you going to share something to it?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was thinking. I think it's because, going back to what we were talking about in our last episode, about how I think they should kind of bring together group chat and spaces and chats and everything into one place a bit more in line with normal messaging applications like WhatsApp and iMessage. We don't use spaces that much, and so I might be wrong in what I'm saying, but I'm pretty sure that with spaces you can sort of set a sharing setting within the space so that people within the organisation can sort of find it even if they're not a member of it. A little bit like you can do with calendars as well, where you can allow people to be able to sort of find them and request to see them, or they can see free and busy information only across the whole organisation, even if they're not direct shared members. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to check the settings whilst we're having a look, because we do have a few spaces. I just haven't checked it in that much detail with those sorts of things. So I'll have a little look at those settings as we're recording. But this is, I mean, beyond that, I'm trying to fully understand what they're saying here. So when sharing a Google Drive file to a space in Google Chat, you will now see the space name and associated image, if you remember. So I mean, you're saying this is within the realm of a little update look, right? And I'm guessing then that...
Yeah, so there's limited information. Literally, what we've said is the information that we have available on this.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm imagining as well that it's just kind of a user interface tweak here rather than being anything too drastic with the functionality. So I'm guessing that that's what they're sort of putting here. But again, it's like we said in our last episode, isn't it? It's another little tweak to just make it look a little bit nicer.
Process that that I usually use if I want to share something within a space, I would open up that space, and 9 times out of 10 I would just drag the file or the image or whatever it is that I want to share within that space. I just drag it directly into that space. But obviously, in order to do that, you need to be inside the space first. So if it's a space you don't have access to, then that won't be an option. I also wondered if it meant, say, if you just wanted to share the file, say directly from Google Drive, right click on share, then you could search for the name of a space. But I tried that with some of our spaces and they weren't coming up, so maybe I wasn't quite doing that right, or maybe I'm just not fully understanding the correct process for this one.
I'm just reading an article here from Google, and it does say you can create discoverable spaces. So I'm not. It doesn't go into too much detail here about exactly. I'm trying to sort of read this as we're recording, but there does seem to be an option here to create these what are called discoverable spaces. So I imagine that it's probably talking about something like that, like a space that you're not directly a member of, but you can still kind of find it, and it will be, like you said in the update, shown as a private space. Okay, thank you, Adam. What have we got next? I think we've got 2 sheet updates next. Is that right? But they are separate.
Yes, that's right. So next update is explore Looker data using connected sheets. So Google are adding the ability to interactively explore modelled data from Looker, which is Google Cloud's modern business intelligence platform, using connected sheets. This brings connectivity between the familiar interface of Google Sheets and the 50 plus data sources available within Looker's open ecosystem, which includes things like BigQuery, Cloud SQL, Snowflake, and Redshift. From a single source of truth, I love that saying, you can analyze data using pivot tables, charts, formulas, and other integrated data sources. Additionally, with this live connection, access is secured and your data will always stay up to date.
Great, thank you, Adam. We were actually talking about this just before we started recording, because Adam sent me a little message and said, I'm not too sure exactly what this means. And we had a little look together. From my understanding, I mean, up front, for any listeners who have big clients, like big institutions that handle a lot of data, so don't necessarily have to have, millions of employees, but a company that's handling big data, a lot of premises, or somebody who handles data for a very, very large company, this is going to be for you. This is sort of an update really targeted at you. It's not something we would use, for example, within Strawberry 7, because we just don't deal with this sort of data in this way. But from what we understood, Adam and I had a little look at Looker, and Looker is a tool from Google Cloud that allows you to pull in lots of different sources of data and sort of view them in one place. So you can view them in, as Adam's alluded to there, from your SQL or YouTube or Google AdSense, or just a sort of regular data source. And you can pull all of those things in and you can view them in an interface. That's what Looker does. What this is doing is this is going and taking that data from Looker and then putting it into what's called a connected sheet. Now, a connected sheet, from what we read up on, seems to be basically a Google Sheet that's just connected to a data source. It doesn't seem, as far as I could tell, Adam, it didn't seem to be another app, right? It was Google Sheets, essentially.
Yes. So a connected sheet can handle literally millions of rows and columns, whereas if you were just looking at your standard Google Sheets, then it's just not practical to look at that many. So then the connected sheet is essentially the data is all already there, but then you may potentially put in some formula, or you want to make a chart or a graph or something that the Google Sheet will use all your data to then produce. You wouldn't just sift through your millions of rows like you might do with a traditional Google Sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the difference here, isn't it? It's like Looker is allowing you to look, right? Clues in the name, I suppose. Look at all of that data. When you're putting it into this connected sheet, you're then able to manipulate it in the way that you want to manipulate it. Like Adam said there, graphs and pivot tables and things. I actually read in the article, Adam, that it said that it could handle billions of rows, billions with a B, and
lots and lots.
Yeah, a lot, yeah. And it could also handle data coming into the petabytes of data. I'm guessing that's because Looker is kind of doing the cleverness. Like, the end data source is doing the really clever part of holding all the data and sifting it through. Then Looker is sort of pulling all of that together, and then Connected Sheets it's just kind of putting that in Connected Sheets. But it's still incredibly impressive that it can handle that amount of data. So I think the use cases here are, big companies that are like warehouse companies, distribution companies. That would be a very good use case of where they've got a lot of data coming in already in big data, BigQuery, and things like that. And they want to put all of that in, and they want to look at all of that data in a way that makes sense to them in either an internal team or like a meeting to the directors or something like that. Very interesting update. I don't know if you got anything to add on that, Adam. If not, then could you just tell us how to get started with this, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So to get started, for the admins, in order for users to take advantage of this feature, you need to make sure that Connected Sheets for Looker is enabled in Looker's admin menu. I've linked a couple of hopefully helpful pages within this document. Those that have been listening to our podcast, they'll know we always link the Google document to the podcast, so do check that out, and hopefully there should be some links that you'll find helpful. So that's for the admins, but for the end users, so once it has been enabled by your admin, you can, within your Google Sheet, you can navigate to data connectors, then connect to Looker. At the moment, by the way, if you go to that area, you may just see BigQuery or anything else that's been configured. But with Looker, my understanding is kind of what we just mentioned before. Looker will include BigQuery and many other things as well. So it's kind of like an all-in-one. Instead of just looking to one smaller area, using Looker, it will look to multiple sources. So if you are using this, then that should be really helpful. So connects to Looker, then you can enter the URL of a Looker instance. You'll then need to authorize Sheets to access your Looker data. After you connect to and explore, you can see the available data and continue your analysis in Sheets. So as I say, you can then start creating your tables and charts and manipulate the data that you have however you see fit.
Lovely. I just thought of something else actually that you said there that would be really handy, where you were saying about connecting it to sort of BigQuery and things like that, and something which is in the update there about the security. If you imagine, if you're trying to even manipulate the data through Looker, if you want to do it in Sheets beforehand, you'd have to kind of pull all of that data out, and you've got to store it somewhere, right? So instantly, straight away, you're looking at a security vulnerability there, whereas with Connected Sheets, it's all connected directly through a secure encrypted tunnel between the two processes. So actually fantastic security in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the rollout pace for this rapid release and scheduled release started on February the 1st. This is not going to be available to legacy G Suite Basic and Business customers, but it will be available to everybody else.
Wow, actually, that's really, really open. I'm actually surprised that Google have made that so open. I know it's just Google Sheets, essentially, although it's Connected Sheets, but considering the level that this is operating at, I really expected that to be on Enterprise Plus and, the sort of enterprise levels. Very interesting.
So even users with a personal Google account can access this, but I can't really imagine people that do have, if you are just using your personal standard Google account, I doubt this is something you would really have much of a need for, but it's available either way.
Yeah, somebody with a personal account that would need to access petabytes of data in billions of rows of a sheet, somebody with a massive to-do list or something a bit strange like
Just
that.
imagine the shopping list that long.
Exactly. Yeah, okay, no problem. So what have we got? Thank you for that, Adam. What have we got next?
Next up is another Google Sheets update. It's also another slightly more advanced update for the advanced users out there. So Google Sheets adds powerful new functions for advanced analysis. So last year, Google launched name functions along with several powerful functions in Google Sheets, which included things like, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing these correctly, including things like Lambda and XLOOKUP. So now, Google is very excited to announce 11 additional functions that will introduce new concepts, provide you with more efficient functions, and help with more advanced analysis. So just to give you a few examples, again, these are all mentioned on the Google document that we have, but a few examples we have, there's a to-row, which will transform any array or range of cells into a single row, to col, which transforms an array or range of cells into a single column. The v-stack, which appends ranges vertically and in sequence to return a large array, or the h-stack, which appends ranges horizontally and sequence to return a larger array. In addition to providing advanced statistical calculations like margin of error, these functions provide new functionality in the form of powerful new ways to manipulate and work with arrays using to-row, to-col, wrap rows, wrap cols, choose rows, choose cols, v-stacks, and h-stacks. There's also converting Unix epoch data to readable formats without the need for manual calculations using epoch to date. That's what I'm going with. There's also more efficient and simpler to read complex formulas to use let to assign names to calculation results.
Wow, that's great that they're adding some more functionalities in there. As Adam says, there's more details on the document that we always link into with some of the ones that we've got here as an example. But reading through some of these, they're very. I think these are going to be very, very useful to people who want to do these certain functions. I find it great in Google Sheets that you can. I mean, it's an old update now, but even when they sort of introduce those things of auto suggestions. So my favourite to always show people is when you've got a column and you've got a whole load of names in the column, and the first name and the last name is in a single cell, and then you write one column first name and another column last name, and you start manually typing the names in, which so many people do. And I love the way that Google steps in. It just goes, hey, do you want me to just separate these names out for you? Is that what you're trying to do? And you go, yeah.
I love the auto-suggestion feature. I think every time I go to use Google Sheets, I'm using it more and more frequently because it's just really helpful. And 9 times out of 10, it's suggesting something that I want to do anyway. But instead of me either doing something manually or having to look up what the correct formula or the correct process for what I'm trying to achieve is, the auto-suggestion is... It's good, it's really helpful, and it saves so much time, and it works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, absolutely. And I assume as well that these new functionalities that I've got here are going to kind of be in the auto suggestion as well. I mean, they're quite advanced, so I don't know if the auto suggestion will quite be able to work it out all the time. But those examples that you gave of being able to transform arrays into single rows and things like that, those are really, really handy features that you want to do in spreadsheets sometimes, where you've got this huge amounts of data and you just want to transform them. So that's a very, very useful update there. How do people get started with that, Adam?
Okay, so for the admins, there's no admin control required for this feature, but for the end users, so within Google Sheets, all functions can be inserted using the function autocomplete after pressing the equals symbol, using the insert menu, or the function drop-down in the toolbar.
Great. So there's no real change there for putting in the normal sort of functions. It's the same sort of thing, like you say, equals sign or using the insert. So that's good. There's no complication there. When can we expect to see that out? I think that's looks like it's possibly becoming available now.
Yeah, that's right. So a rapid release and scheduled release for this started on February the 1st. So that was a couple of days ago from the time of recording. This update is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers, as well as legacy G Suite Basic and Business business customers, and this is also available to users with a personal Google account. So if you have access to Google Sheets, which is everyone that has access to Google, then you'll be able to access this update.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with it just being some added functionality. Lovely. Thank you so much, Adam. And well done again for getting through all those technical, weird terminologies that Google had chosen to put in that update. Thank you very much, Adam. Well, that's it, everybody. That's everything you need to know about the latest things happening around Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us this week.
We'll be back again next Monday with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.